Welcome to the state of survival. Many game developers often give us a bit of info when announcing or releasing a new game. However, it seems like Hello Games, with its newest title, Light No Fire, has given us a trailer that says a little, but shows a lot.
I couldn't have said it better myself. And honestly, I've only seen one other game do this, and that was Outer Worlds 2. Outer Worlds 2, they showed you this crazy trailer. And they even said, we can't show you much of the gameplay because it's not even made yet. But the difference between this and Outer Worlds 2 is that this is looking like gameplay. Like it looks like the actual multiplayer concept.
That's what's really cool about this entire game, is that you're exactly right. It did have a out of the nowhere feel, much like the Outer Lands 2, but it really showed what they claimed to be in-game multiplayer footage. And what I really enjoyed about the trailer from the get-go is that they already show a diversity in what you can play as a player. You don't have to be 100% a human. I think I saw a otter, maybe a frog person, and I think somebody else.
The one thing this trailer does well is that it makes it clear that this is everybody's fantasy. Whether you're a Final Fantasy fan and you love the little mogs and the chocobos, or you're more of the Blizzard fan where you like the bright colors and the ornate designs, or even if you're more of a Lord of the Rings fan and you like something grounded in reality, watching this trailer felt like I was on an acid trip watching Lord of the Rings blended with Skyrim, blended with Brian Jacques Redwall because of all the little animal creatures. I didn't know what to expect, and then out of nowhere, I saw little like inspirations from How to Train Your Dragon, like the mounts, everything. It's just so diverse and crazy, but it's all fantasy.
On the whole, like, this is everyone's fantasy. There are skeletons, there are floating, apocalyptic, structures up in the air. The areas felt kind of dynamic in how that they were perceived. Like the biomes felt like their own biomes, even in that short trailer that we were given.
Oh, absolutely. And what I love about it is somehow they managed to capture the cinematic approach to skeletons and different creatures that feels like you're watching those old 1940s, 1950s, like Homer and the Odyssey movies where everything was stop animation. I felt like there was a little bit of just that Tim Burton touch when you saw the skeletons and the little smaller creatures bobbing around behind them.
I would have to say the other thing that I noticed in the trailer was that it seemed like there wasn't like other, I would say, dimensions or other places to go to, like other worlds. Like there might be, but from what I've seen, it looks like it's very grounded in one particular planet.
Yes. Yeah, it's one they even say that, a procedural Earth, a magical Earth, a fantasy Earth, 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 Earth. They want you to realize that this is one planet. And honestly, on the topic of procedural generation, I think a lot of my concern comes from even modern titles. Starfield used procedural generation for a lot of their planets and stuff, and it either created really ridiculous redundancies with the same buildings and the same rocks, spawning on a planet, or it created really harsh contrasts where you just went from this is the ground and the rocks, and oh, look, there's just iron everywhere. And it was like a line that was drawn on the planet. But more to Hello Games past, it makes me nervous because of No Man's Sky. Animals on every planet. They were talking about the variety that you would see that you would never run into a creature or plant life or a planet that looked the same.
Well, I have to give Hello Games at least a good nod, and much like you were kind of saying, a good gesture of faith, because they could have, in the very beginning of their game, broken promises, huge bugs, and other issues, could have just gone dark and just shut down as a game studio and never come back. But they fought back and they pushed back harder. And what I'm really hoping to see is they've learned from these experiences, they've learned from everything they're doing. And what's really cool is that they're using what looks like the same game engine they used on No Man's Sky. It may be prettier, a little bit more refined, but that's actually kind of cool in my eyes because that means that they know what they're doing with their own game engine and they know how to work with it and all that kind of stuff. So we may not see a lot of the mistakes they made in the very early times of No Man's Sky.
Yeah, and honestly, despite the bad press surrounding Unity, given what they did this winter and the really poor what I call Hasbro Wizards of the Coast decisions they made. I think it's good that, Hello Games was already in production with this. They stuck to it. They're not ashamed of it. And it really shows that they're using new things that have been brought to Unity since No Man's Sky that has really enhanced the game. No Man's Sky, in my mind, has never been really one for its fantastic lighting and particle effects. It has always looked ridiculously cartoony. Whereas this game looks like it has an art style, but the lighting and particle effects look real, which kind of helps you tie in to that immersion. When you see light casting through the trees, you expect the god rays, you expect the specular lighting, you expect the shading and things to work the same. When that happens, the motes of disbelief, like little bunny people or cute skeletons running around or a fat dragon skimming the surface on the water, goes away. When those dragons were flying over the water and you saw the reflections, that's some of the best reflections I've seen in a game using Unity, and I applaud them. I applaud them.
But let's go ahead and jump into the speculation about Light No Fire. We've been given so little details, and even if you look further into the game, their website says there are multiple features they are planning to introduce, or rather promising. But I kind of get a little bit confused. It said that it's going to be a multiplayer Earth, and then it's also going to be an Earth on a scale that was never attempted before.
There's a couple ways they can handle it. First of all, if they go the Diablo route, which I really hope they don't do, because I really hate that style where everybody can meet in the cities, but then once you leave the cities, you're in your own instance. They can handle it that way. Um, I'm hoping for some PvP, especially since they've been touting the role playing mechanics of this, which role
Oh yeah.
playing game is vague. It is so vague. Are we going to get something like Enshrouded? Is this going to be, oh, your role playing game because you could choose one of three abilities, which in which case it's going to be like diet role play? But I think the one thing they're hammering home on all of their marketing, all of their websites is that it is literally the size of Earth. Earth is huge, and a lot of people don't realize that, when you're looking at the diameter of Earth being some 12,000 plus miles, right? That's a pretty significant size. So even if it was MMO, after a while, I don't really think you're going to see a whole lot of people. That may also bite them in the butt. If we're all starting in the area and it's really populated, we're going to love that energy, we're going to love that sense of community, we're going to have people visiting our towns, and then what? After we go out even further, no one lives there. Are we just going to find some grizzled grognards who got there first, like, hey, people, shoot them? It could go either way.
And the other thing that just popped in my head is they're saying a scale never attempted before, and it's multiplayer. If they go the MMO route or the other kind of like larger population where you join a server and play with people all the time, like the server's persistent, does that procedural generation uh change every time you boot up the server? Like, is it going to be different every time? Or is the MMO going to be the procedural generation where people are generating the map the further and further they explore? Because that would worry me a bit
They
because Earth has
actually
true
did.
biomes.
They actually did answer that a little bit. On one of their websites, and I'm just going to read directly from it. We'll just take a quote from them. A multiplayer Earth, carve a life together, meet players from across the globe, build a life, explore and survive together. This is the next sentence that I find very important. Construct persistent buildings and communities, or strike out alone to discover the world for others. Which means if they are going to do a procedural generated Earth, at some point there will be no more exploration that has to be done because what you
Oh,
explore explores it for everybody else. And it might even be that, let's say you, me, and a group of people, we don't like our place, so we pack up our supplies and we leave. It is entirely possible that another group of adventurers will stumble upon our abandoned community and then be able to tear it apart or make it their home.
they also are talking about fantasy, and the trailer gave us some details and some showing of some of that fantasy. We saw dragons, birds. I saw floating like ruins or something. You talked about skeletons before. I think fantasy is really cool. And the way you talked about the lighting and how they're doing a little bit of realism, it's cool to see realistic fantasy being possibly one of the things they're leaning into.
The world is not a safe place. So anybody who
Oh
goes out
no.
there is going to be brave and strong, and they have to be capable. But to me, it seems like we're going to see maybe ancient ruins from a bygone era, or we're going to run into, like what happened to this place and want to hang out there and discover it more, which I think that's going to be the rub. And from the sounds of it, there is no OP, I'm max level, I'm running around with Top Gear and I can just stomp on everything, because you are not a hero. You are a regular bum. That is it. And that's the note. I think that's where the realism comes in. There's never going to be a guy who's like, I will slay the dragon on my own. It's going to be dragon run.
You are the guard who took the arrow to the knee.
Yeah, right. I was an adventurer once.
But what I really enjoy about or speculating on is in the trailer they show people in a variety of different biomes, water, climbing,
Mhm.
and all those kind of cool things. And it's nice because in No Man's Sky, you can manipulate and transform the terrain a lot nowadays. Like you can truly terraform it however you want. So I'm really interested to see how they handle terraforming in the game.
Yeah, and I really hope that's not the case. So you could just terraform anything. I know I'm going to be the odd one out, but if we're all sharing this world and it's supposed to be an adventure and we're supposed to go out and explore, you want me to walk 12,000 miles to just go across the diameter of the planet. I don't want it to look like a World War I Verdun battlefield. I do not want to see trench works everywhere or vulgar images carved in the dirt, because it's going to happen. It is going to happen.
Well, let's go ahead and shoot over to our community. What do you think Light No Fire can offer that other survival games haven't offered yet? Well, folks, I think this has been a wonderful conversation on Light No Fire. Jarl, I know me and you were mostly speculating because, again, there's not a lot of info out there, but I feel like this was a great conversation on Light No Fire, and I am excited to see more of the development because Sean Murray keeps posting teasers about it. So, from me and SOS, thank you very much for coming. Remember, folks, this podcast would not be possible without my great friend Jarl Goats and fellow host. His Twitch is down below. Feel free to click on it, check him out, give him a follow, whatever you want to do. And our amazing producer, Red Falcon. Thank you very much for watching this show and have a wonderful day.
Bye bye.